Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Akamai Partner Champions podcast. I'm your host and occasional cookie monster, Nick Watkins. Now you may be wondering, who are you and why are you in my ears? Don't worry, I get asked that all the time. Now, as a former sales dude turned marketer, I've spent most of my career working in and around the channel. The channel is endlessly fascinating to me, with incredible stories of behind-the-scenes heroics where together with our partners, we make magic happen for our customers. To me, channel first ain't a gimmick, it's a way of life. But what truly makes a great partnership? It's not just about closed-won opportunities, co-branded swag, and bougie happy hours. There's a certain je ne sais quoi to a great partnership, and that's the riddle wrapped in an enigma that I'm here to explore. I'm excited to have you, dear listener, along for that journey. Now, we chose our first guest very deliberately. Are they an Akamai partner? Check. Do they have a unique business model? Check. Does the guest have a charming brogue? You better believe check. But we didn't just choose Infinigate for those reasons. We chose them because of what customers say about them. Now, going through reviews, I saw what you'd expect. Amazing service, super knowledgeable, easy to work with. These are all commendable qualities, but that doesn't get you on this podcast. What grabbed me was how many of their staff were name-checked in the reviews. And we're not just talking one or two rock stars, multiple employees getting multiple customer shout-outs. That tells me that Infinigate is cultivating a winning culture, and I've got to know more about their recipe for success. So who is Infinigate? With over 25 years of experience, Infinigate is the leading technology platform and trusted advisor in cybersecurity, cloud, and network infrastructure. Hence, why we're fast friends. They're an EMEA and ANZ distributor, providing unrivaled support and value for their vendor and reseller partner communities. You remember how I said they have a unique business model? Get this. 50% of their people are technical experts. Now, it's rare these days to have a partner who is equal parts sizzle and steak, which is why I wanted to learn more about them on the show. But enough from me. You want to hear that charming brogue I alerted to earlier. So, without further ado, I'm excited to welcome our guest, the UK and Ireland Director of Sales for Infinigate, Mr. Gordon Lyon.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I'm very excited to know more about Infinigate. You guys are a fast up-and-coming partner. You guys have gotten a lot of great customer feedback. And so the first thing I was hoping you could talk to me about today was just tell me a little bit about Infinigate, about your business, how long you've been there, and a little bit about your journey to coming to Infinigate.
Yeah, sure, no problem at all. So firstly, on Infinigate. So we are a cybersecurity distributor. We were founded back in 1996, currently turning over around 2.6 billion euros. We have coverage across 40 locations throughout EMEA, and more recently following an acquisition in Australia. Our business model, we currently operate across three main technology pillars: cybersecurity, secure networks, and secure cloud. In my slightly biased opinion, I believe that Infinigate are the only true solution-defined distributor. I'm sure others would argue, but that's certainly, from my experience, what I feel. What does that mean, you might be thinking? So whilst as a distributor, we, in my opinion, deliver sort of best-in-class traditional distribution service. And what I mean by that is inventory, logistics, credit, RMA, all the things you would expect from a distributor. We deliver that service to our partners and our vendors, but our sole purpose is to help vendors scale and grow exponentially by supporting and developing existing partners and onboarding appropriate net new. Infinigate operate a 2-to-1 sales to technical ratio across the group, which enables us to be extremely consultative, but we're also very much data-driven and sort of marketing-led. So we use BI extensively to help vendors and partners target the most appropriate end users, and then heavily rely on our phenomenal marketing team to help partners and vendors with sales activation days, and end user events. So Infinigate have also evolved in line with current channel demands by spinning up our secure cloud pillar. By doing that, we can provide marketplace-based offerings for MSP partners, and we're also able to provide an extensive services-led Microsoft offering.
That makes total sense. I mean, there's so much that you just said that I want to dig into that I think just has such impact. I mean, one, I've been working with partners for 20 years, and I think you may be the first person I've ever heard of that has that 2-to-1 ratio of technical to sales representation. Like, if I had to distill down everything that you said, it's basically, why would a vendor like Akamai partner with someone like Infinigate? It's because you guys bring the solution, the fix to a customer's problem, from ideation, from consultation, from having that very first initial conversation, all the way through to the end, combining different pieces, combining local expertise. I mean, you've been in this business for over 30, coming up on 30 years now at this point.
Yeah,
like,
true.
You've also must have seen a tremendous amount of change from security and cloud and all these different infrastructure pieces that you guys have done. You've probably seen the gamut of change over 30 years. It has to have just been incredible.
Well, I've only been part of the business over the last sort of 14 years, so I haven't been involved in everything since 1996. I came out of one of the businesses that Infinigate acquired back in 2022. The business I previously worked for was very traditionally a networking business. So it's been a real growth curve for me to sort of expand my knowledge and expertise to try and get my head around everything that is cybersecurity, which is, as I'm sure you would agree, is a bit of a minefield.
Yeah. And the breadth of it. I mean, there's so many different directions that you can go
Absolutely.
in. As a kind of an embarrassing aside, I was getting my haircut before this podcast because I didn't want to look disheveled talking to you. And the guy asked me, he's like, well, what do you do for work? And it's like, oh, I do marketing for cybersecurity. And I could kind of see a little steam come out of his ears and his eyes go cross-eyed because he doesn't know, what do you say to that? Or how do you go forward with that? And it's just because cybersecurity is such a broad answer, but it's cool that you have that breadth of experience also coming through as part of an acquisition. And then, I think being able to bring that unique go-to-market approach, I love the fact that you are putting more technical resources with customers to really be able to understand their problems. I think that just is a huge testament to your business model.
No, thank you. I mean, I think for us, it serves the channel better. I think when you're trying to bring disruptive technologies through into the UK market, often the partners that you're looking to work with perhaps don't have the expertise initially. So that's something that we've sort of tried to ensure that we can deliver to sort of help, I suppose, accelerate their route to market quicker.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the reason I also love working with partners too. It's like you work with so many vendors and everybody says, oh, we have the magic bullet. We figured out security, or we figured out cloud or networking or anything. And it's like, you guys are the ones who bring us all back to earth a little bit, the marketers and a lot of us, and say, look, you guys help in certain applications, or this may be right for this customer. It really just depends on, different scenarios, what markets they're in. So I think that's like when people ask, why does Akamai love going with partners? The reasons are the strength that you just listed out. So I think that's really cool to highlight. Now, kind of on that topic, I am curious. Why did you guys look at Akamai? I mean, why did you choose us as a technology partner? Walk me through a little bit about what that journey looked like.
That's a great question, and I think there's probably three completely different answers. So let me try and tackle all three. So the first thing was your technology stack. When we take on a new vendor, we try to avoid taking on vendors where we have duplication within our portfolio. We're always looking at that kind of technology sort of ecosystem and trying to establish where we have gaps and where are the right solutions for these gaps. How can we fill them? So we had gaps in our portfolio for zero trust security and WAF. So obviously that made Akamai a perfect fit from that perspective. But what made the partnership even more appealing was the services opportunity and also some sort of long-standing, strong relationships that we have with some people within your UK business. I suppose the second thing would be, for me, and I know this is shared within the Infinigate business, we really see Akamai as being well known, highly respected. It's a brand that's really strong within the sort of enterprise IT market and a market leader, right? Who continue develop their offering, both organically and via M&A. So that was very important to us when looking to partner. But as I kind of touched on before, several members of my team worked very closely with Ivan and Heather from your UK team when they had roles with another vendor several years ago. So they were fully aware of our technical expertise. They were also aware of our ability to skill up quickly to deliver high quality professional services. And our preference when partnering with any vendor is to deliver value added services. I don't think it's any secret that distribution margins are often incredibly tight these days. So being able to provide services helps us maximize our profitability whilst continuing to provide our valued partners with competitive commercials.
That is a perfect answer, and I love the three kind of different ways that you approach that answer. The one I kind of want to pull a little bit on more is the relationship part of it, because I think that is the part that a lot of customers, I know other partners who are listening to this have heard this, and I kind of understand how partners and vendors work in the background, but I think it's kind of an interesting point that if you weren't in this business, you would have no idea that there's, the texts on the weekends of like, hey, we're working on, like, this customer has this proposal that's urgently due and they got to get it to their procurement team, or, us at 11 o'clock at night, the last day of the quarter, trying to make sure everything is, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted on the contracts and stuff. And there's these little bits where it's, as you work with different vendors, you can have these big corporate approaches, which make it a little bit tough, but then you have the people within there that you can actually pick up the phone, that you can talk to, that you're just constantly running things by to make these things happen. It is kind of a funny side of our business. And that's something that you as a partner would look for, and that being able to have those relationships with people to, be able to go out and then, or if, on the flip side of them having a technical issue, or they, hey, we got to get our deployment done by a certain day. Those are the kind of behind the scenes things that happen that really, I think, to me, demonstrate what good partnership looks like. And it sounds like Infinigate Akamai have that already going, which is always encouraging to hear.
Yeah, great. I mean, you're absolutely right. I think the UK channel is, we always, this is a commonly used phrase. It's a very small place. There's a lot of people that know each other. The longer you're in it, the more people you know, the more people that have therefore experienced perhaps your capabilities whilst working for another vendor, another partner, or perhaps when someone within our business was working for another vendor or another partner. Over the last, you've Infinigate since 1996, but even me over the last sort of 14, 15 years, you work with a lot of people because they've experienced working with you in a prior life, and therefore, this particular partnership was always appealing to us because we'd worked with some of your guys before, and they'd experienced working with us, which is a great story, right?
Right. So kind of pulling a little bit more on the partnership thread here, I was just curious, what are the benefits? What are the types of things, what do you value as an Akamai partner? I know we talked a little bit about that, about relationships, but I was curious if there's anything else that you would point to where you were like, yeah, that was another good reason why we went with Akamai.
So, I mean, I like to think that Infinigate are renowned for providing vendors with the opportunity to scale. Our aim is to take on and support and develop existing partners to do more business, whilst finding new partners to work with, and aiming to increase the percentage of channel-led business. I could give you lots of examples where we've partnered with vendors who were working in a direct-to-partner model, and to scale, they wanted to bring in distribution. And we've moved from, the majority of the business on day one being channel fed, to, the majority of the business after, 12 months, 24 months being channel led. And that's led by partners that we've onboarded and developed. So the reason why, one of the main benefits, I think, for sort of, being an Akamai partner is your partner program rewards distributors across Europe, I'm sure, but certainly selfishly for me in the UK, for supporting existing or finding new partners to deliver net new logos. So we also have first refusal on all professional services as part of the agreement that we've set up with Akamai. So that's fantastic for us. Anything that's any services, that engagements for net new channel-led opportunities. So that plays really nicely into your strategy.
That's huge. Yeah, I love that. So now let's flip a little bit. Let's talk about customers. And so
Okay.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about what value does the customer gain working with a partner like you guys? I know we've talked a little bit about going the very consultative heavy approach to kind of start, but I was curious if you could elaborate a little bit more on, how the customer benefits working with you.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So, I mean, Infinigate have contracted with Akamai in a way which enables all of our partners in the UK to propose and transact Akamai solutions without the traditional, let's call them day one investments or hurdles, if you like, that you would typically find when onboarding a new vendor. We also operate a data-driven marketing first strategy, and that delivers huge value during the sort of partner onboarding process. We work extremely closely with selecting an appropriate partners to sort of fast track their journey with a vendor and help them generate opportunities by using various smart data engines. We help them identify targets and support them with things like sales activation days. Our marketing team work closely with vendors to create sort of end user events, which are tailored to suit partners of any size. And we also operate a build, operate, transfer model, which means that partners can use our technical resource initially, and then we would provide them with extensive technical training, which would empower the partner to skill up their team and then take the services piece back in-house. And you might think, well, you're doing yourself out of a services revenue there. We are, but equally, we build great partner relationships by taking them on the journey.
I love that. I think that is a fantastic answer. Like, I think going kind of back to one of our earlier threads too was just about the fact that, security itself is a journey. Everything that you guys, every service that you are offering is a type of a journey, because nobody ever gets like, okay, I'm completely secure, or I've completely migrated to cloud and I will have no other needs past that. Like, this is an iterative journey. Budgets come in every so often. Like, as much as we wish we could wave a magic wand and fix all these things, it takes time to get to eventually the place you want to get to. And the way you're describing it is exactly the type of partner that you would want to look for in order to be able to go on that journey. And so I just wanted to call that out as just a very smart approach to the way that you're doing it.
Oh, thank you. Great to hear.
And so it's
we think
obviously why we're partners. And then the only other one I wanted to comment on, and only because I'm a marketer, is just the fact that you work closely with your marketing team. I always think that's just very cool to see when partners also have their own marketing team. They have these sort of driven events. I mean, I know I go out and I'm trying to talk about API security with a lot of the field there, and a lot of it is, what is API security? I don't even know where to start. Why is my WAF not good enough? And so it's having to reverse engineer and find that kind of right events and that sort of right venue to be able to talk to customers about these pressing cybersecurity issues that are becoming more prevalent. They are becoming more important, especially as all of us are going towards automation. All of us are trying to go towards digital transformation. These are all things that everyone's moving towards, and so it feels good as both a vendor and I'm sure as you as a partner, kind of sitting shotgun to these customers' transformation and that journey that they go on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we heavily, as I've mentioned several times, we heavily rely on our marketing team. We've got an extensive team, very experienced, and several years ago we sort of went through an exercise where we opened up the kimono, if you like, and we had a conversation around what is going to deliver the best ROI, because for many years telemarketing and various other sort of partner based and webinars and other things, that was what distribution seemed to roll out on a regular basis. And I'm not saying that these things are a thing of the past, but it's very, very difficult to sort of, keep an eye on the ROI that you can deliver from these sort of activities. So we sort of made the decision to work closely with partners and vendors to deliver end user content, and get out into the market and try and deliver opportunities with end users that we can push back through the channel. And then that's been, these events have been fantastic, because you can run an event in a fine dining restaurant in London for 6 people, or like 2 weeks ago, we ran an event, single vendor, 200 attendees from various partners. So yeah, you can scale up and down, and basically what you're trying to drive during these events is firstly the opportunity for the vendor to come in and showcase the technologies. And then we would, try to sort of drive proof of concepts and demonstrations, because that's what can, obviously deliver the ROI that we crave.
Well, the other good thing too is that you're delivering best in breed activities because you're not bespoke to, you're not assigned to one specific partner as you're going through this. Like you can take like Akamai is great because they've got the SOTIs or the API impact reports or the different things that come out. But then you may have a vendor in a completely different space who brings in their latest and greatest security and threat research. And so you're basically able to bring in all these sides of the coin and to at least kind of get to a nice consensus to show like, this is how we're looking at it. And here's the latest research that you customers are be able to use. So I think that's a really cool story just to highlight as well. Now, we wouldn't be here without customers. I think that is a pretty fair statement to go through. And so my next question was, without naming a client specifically, I would love to know, can you share an example of a win where Infinigate really made that difference in the client experience?
So many examples, but one in particular that does kind of spring to mind. So we started working with a fairly small partner back in 2021. They used our pre-sales resource and our marketing team actually to support an RFP that they were working on for a UK customer in the higher education sector. And following a successful RFP bid, we had to provide them with a significant credit line, which proved challenging, as at the time the partner's turnover was smaller than the order value. So it was always going to be challenging. But we worked really closely with the partner. We gathered a lot of information relating to the project and also the end user that we were working with. And, obviously, whilst in the background reviewing various financial documents and thankfully managed to provide them with the credit line they need. So, it's all good and well working with a partner that is willing to sort of engage with you, but when they're relatively small, sometimes these challenges can pop up and they're very difficult to overcome. But glad to sort of say in this particular example that we managed to do that, and so delighted we did because we've gone on to from strength to strength with this partner. So the next thing was we assisted the vendor. We placed a massive order on the vendor up front, even though we knew that it was going to be a relatively lengthy rollout period because there was hardware involved in this particular solution. Our supply chain and logistics team then worked really closely with the partner and the end user to create a detailed rollout plan, and which I believe, if I remember correctly, lasted about just short of 12 months. But the partner also benefited commercially and operationally by using our break fix help desk service. And since then, we've used the same blueprint to support this partner with several large wins. We've also introduced new technologies to improve their portfolio, which has ultimately led to us developing our partnership further. And we've had to flex that credit line even more, and we've managed to do that as well. So that's quite a good example, I think, of sort of an end-to-end scenario where we've really supported and put a bet on a small partner that thankfully are now one of our largest contributors. So it's definitely a success story. I think I could have picked a few, but that's probably the best example.
God, that's a really good example. I mean, it adds on to the point you were making earlier about scale too, right? I mean, it's just something that maybe wouldn't have been on a different person's radar, that you guys were willing to give them the chance, that you were willing to sit down and figure out how to work through the credit terms to make it make sense for everybody. And I think that's that consultative approach that you spoke to earlier too, that really adds on to that. And so I think that's a great story, and I want to thank you for sharing that, because I think that's, as other partners are listening to this, I would never say give away your secret sauce. I think that's impossible to do. But they may be in a similar spot in their journey, trying to be like, man, how do I do what Infinigate did? Like, how do I get as cool as those guys are? So I always appreciate anybody sharing kind of the steps they took or some of the different ways that they got to the position of success that they are in today. So thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
Now, to wrap us all up, I want to thank you for being a great guest on the podcast. I do want to ask one more question, because we spoke earlier about relationships. We spoke a little bit earlier about us being people in this business. I wanted to know just a little bit about your journey into getting into the role that you're in now, but also share with the audience at least one personal goal, just to help show kind of the man you are, the person you are, and what sort of big dreams you have this year, what you're hoping to achieve.
I don't know if it's going to be that spectacular, Nick, but yeah, sure, no problem at all. So I joined the industry relatively later on in my career. I was in my 30s when I joined the industry. In short, I'm, as most people will tell from my accent, I'm Scottish. My wife and I were living in Scotland, but she lived in the south of England. And when we decided to have a family, she wanted to move down south. So I had a career change. I was in private healthcare initially, and then moved into IT. And I won't go into the details of why and how it all sort of came about, but came in a relatively entry-level position to a small distributor back in 2011. And sort of worked my way through the ranks into account management. And then I spent a lot of time working with telcos and GSIs and these sort of partners. And then took a European services role within that business before coming back to take on the sales management in the UK. And then I've ended up in the sales director's position. So a 14-year journey that literally started with me being a glorified telemarketer, and I'm still in the same building doing this interview as to where I was on day one when I first started. Because whilst I've worked for 3 different organisations, I've remained within the business through various acquisitions. So yeah, it's been a long and interesting journey. But it's great now. I think we're a much larger business now than we were back in the day. It's really exciting. There's lots of things going on in the background, new vendors being signed, acquisitions happening. So it's an exciting place to be in Infinigate at the moment.
Oh, it absolutely is. I also just want to call out too, I feel like it should be mandatory for everyone to at least have 2 years of a role where they have to either call on people or serve the general public in like a retail role, just so that you get comfortable on your feet. Because my goodness, you must have had people hang up the phone on you or slam, you know what I mean?
All the
You're
time.
Just like, I'm just trying to do my job, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. I'm glad you've called that out. I mean, there were times during that sort of first year of doing that role where I could have quite easily got up and left, because I was in quite a nice role in the previous life in private healthcare, and to moving into a role where people, they're putting the phone down on you, they're perhaps not being as pleasant as you would like them to be. It's definitely made me a lot nicer to telemarketers when they ring me today, because I've gone through that experience. But to touch on a point that you've mentioned, you certainly have to learn the technology very quickly, because if you actually get to speak to someone that is prepared to talk to you and you don't know what you're talking about, then you're in trouble. So yeah, it was an interesting journey.
And tell me a little bit about the personal goal you have for the year. What are you hoping to achieve this year?
Yeah, sure. Look, Nick, that's quite a simple one. I want to spend a bit more time with my children. I think that's and not necessarily with them, but sort of watching what they're doing. My kids are 7 and 10. My youngest son, my son is my youngest, and he is massively into football, and that's the round ball version. That's soccer for anybody that's in the US. And playing football every week, I want to make sure that I get to the games, that I go along and support him. My daughter is singing, acting, dancing, doing various shows. She's performing at Euro Disney later on this year, so keen to see her do that. Yeah,
congrats! That's awesome.
I went through a period of my career where when they were a little bit younger, it was quite difficult to sort of escape from the office. You always felt like you needed to be here, but thankfully, the way things are today, Infinigate are flexible. They're happy to allow you to go and spend some time with your family. We all put the hours in at different times anyway, so. Big goal for me, spend a bit more time, with my kids, make sure I'm not missing out on anything, because there are too many people telling me that you only have them being children for so long, and you've got to maximise that.
It's sort of the curse and the blessing of the Generation X millennial type of parenting, and that we are trying to undo what our parents did, but also, make sure that we're present, make sure someone was talking to me like playing with our kids. Like, we feel profound guilt if we don't play with our kids. Whereas I don't know that our parents maybe felt that same way, but I think it's such a noble goal that you've just outlaid for me. As a parent of 2 myself, I'm 100% on the same page with you. Just to be there, to be present, to see it all happen. And honestly, I'm similar to you. I'm watching my daughter dance, and it's I'm also gaining a new respect for a lot of the dancing and the stretching and all the different things that they're doing too. You're like, goodness, I don't know that I could have ever done that in any age of physicality I've ever been in. But that's awesome that she's dancing at Euro Disney. That is really you just got to be so proud.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that we planned this year as well as we would like, because we're actually going we're taking the kids on holiday to actual Disney, the one in Florida, and we literally come back, 3 days later we're off to Euro Disney. So there's maybe going to be a little bit Disney overload this year.
I know you're like, this isn't going to be every year, so don't get used to multiple Disneys multiple times a year.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Gordon, I want to thank you so much for being our guest on the podcast today.
No
I
problem.
learned a ton about Infinigate, about you. I'm just so excited for the future of our partnership together. And to all of our partners and customers joining us for the podcast, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We are truly honored. And we look forward to talking to you on our next episode.
Thank you, Nick.
All right. Thank you, Gordon. Appreciate it. All right. Have a good day.
And you. Bye-bye.